while he's coming up to give me a picture, I'll just read a few words about Paul. He's been involved in invasive species outreach and control since 1992. He is currently a volunteer at the Moraine State Forest Southern Unit. And again, these volunteers are vital to many of our state public lands in keeping them in good shape. And he's really leading an effort to restore 137 acres surrounding the Scuppernong Springs Nature Trail. Did I say that right? By removing invasive plants. And you could probably guess the list: buckthorn, garlic mustard, phragmites, spotted knapweed, etc., etc., etc. And his work is work in part of overall management of that whole river habitat area, which is the largest native wet prairie east of the Mississippi River. In 2013, he and approximately 11 volunteers contributed 1,400 hours of labor, so no small task. I think some of his the comments I like to read from his nominators is he works year-round, virtually nonstop, including the unforgiving winter months, and we all know what those are, and hopefully they're a thing of the past for at least several more months. And he's really an inspiration to both his peers and volunteers and those who learn from his work. And I think what was neat is that many of the volunteers who he gets to assist them, apparently he's working on the trail and they stumble across him, so hopefully don't stumble over him. And they ask him, "What are you doing?" And that's a great educational experience. And Paul educates them apparently on what he's doing and gets them to help them and come out in the future. So I think that's just phenomenal. And I think the neatest factoid is I was this winter looking for an example of, he's an avid photographer and he puts lots of images on his website, which is ScuppernogsPringNatureTrail.com. And I was looking for a picture of a, I'm trying to remember what I was looking for a picture of, but I came across your website and I think borrowed one of the pictures for one of my presentations. So he has excellent pictures. I can attest to that fact. So without further ado, I'll give it to Paul so he can say a few words, but let's again congratulate Paul.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I really appreciate this opportunity, and I want to thank Amanda and Melanie, Melanie with the newborn back there, for nominating me, and the Wisconsin Invasive Species Council for giving me this award. And I did want to just mention a few things. I am very passionate about what I do, and one of those cold winter days I was working and someone was walking by, a woman with her family was walking by, and she said, "Are you the buckthorn man?" And I said, I am the buckthorn man. So if you want to find my website, you don't have to remember that long name. Just Google the buckthorn man and you'll find my site. And I just wanted to put I've been doing this for 20 years, mostly focusing on buckthorn, and I wanted to put it in perspective a little bit, things that are important to me. And we look at the state, we have about 34 million acres. About 5 million acres are public land owned by the federal, county, and state entities. And about 337,000 acres of that 5 million have been called out as state natural areas for special attention. 673 state natural areas in the state. And the Natural Resources Foundation, I'm going to give you a lot of data here. The Natural Resources Foundation has focusing their effort on 54 of those state natural areas, comprising about 13,400 acres. So we go from 34 million acres in the state, 5 million acres of public land, 373,000 acres of state natural areas, and 13,000 acres approximately are getting special attention. And I just want to, as a background, I just want to set the table there with that information. So I was recently at the Oak Savannah Alliance workshop, which Amanda helped coordinate, and I heard Matt Zine make a presentation. Matt Zine is the chief biologist with the Endangered Resources Group, which is now called the Bureau of Natural Heritage Conservation. And I asked him, he made a great talk, and I asked him about, how many of he talked about the management plan that's being executed on the Lulu Lake property, and I asked him how many of the 673 state natural areas have management plans, and he said, well, we don't worry about anything above the zone of tension. So the zone of tension is a band across the state that separates the northern hardwoods from the southern oak savanna type terrain, and then there's the area of central hardwoods in the middle. He said, well, we're not worrying about the state natural areas above the zone of tension. And I said, okay, well how many below the zone of tension? How many state natural areas have management plans? And he said, well, I don't know. He said, we're 10 years behind. I said, well, what % of these state natural areas have management plans? He said, well, I don't know. And To me, that it speaks to where our priorities are as a community. The budget, the current state budget is going to allocate about $5 million for the Bureau of Natural Heritage Conservation in the next 2 years. It's going to get $5 million each year. And if we look at, as a society, where are we spending our time and attention? We spent over $6 trillion on the war in Iraq and the war in Afghanistan. We spent over $1 trillion on the national security state since 9/11. Okay, $6 trillion is 1.2 million times the amount that we've spent on the Bureau of Natural Heritage Conservation in the state. That's 1.2 million times. And so when I look at this, the Invader Crusader, I don't like this war terminology. I mean, we have the war on drugs, the war on poverty, the Vietnam War, the war on terror. These are wars that aren't meant to be won. They're wars that have, I don't know what the powers that be are choosing not to win these wars. So I'm a soldier fighting a war that can't be won. And I don't want to rain on the parade here, but that's my feeling. And I've been doing this for 20 years, and I just recently, the last 2 years, I've been working at the Ottawa Lake Fen State Natural Area, which hasn't been touched since 1975, when the management plan said, we're going to let this go wild. So in the 40 years since 1975, it did go wild. The buckthorn was all the same height, 30, 40 foot tall, all the same generation. They let it go to hell. I'm not trying to be critical, but I'm just stating the fact. Now, if I hadn't done anything, it would still be going down the tube. And so I don't know what to say. To go plead to your legislator to redirect the funds from war to our natural resources. I'm not a fan of government, but something's got to change here. We're losing the battle, and 100 buckthorn men aren't going to win the war. We need to change the consciousness of our community, to start caring about our public lands, care about the commons, get out and do something, and make a difference. And thank you for your time today.